Welcome back to the farm. My name's Roz, also known as Passion Flower, and you'll find me here each week talking about my farming and creative life. It's definitely feeling like winter here this week. It's been a very cold and grey week, so not a lot of motivation to get outside and do anything that doesn't actually really need to get done. We don't have any big projects on the go at the moment, so it is just the regular feeding of the animals and making sure that everything is running smoothly rather than getting stuck into something big. When we have something big, we tend to do it regardless. It could be too hot, too cold, too wet. If it has to be done, it has to be done. But we're taking it a little bit easier at the moment. So one of the cold weather winter rituals is a fairly regular wood run out into our bush to collect kindling of different sizes, and then we put those into big boxes that sit on our front porch that we can easily grab when we're starting the fires. We also grab wood from the bush for fires as well, logs that we know are old and already quite dry and are ready to be burnt. You can't just use a brand new tree that's just fallen over, it's too green and it will smoke too much and it will burn too quickly and you will not get any heat out of it. So you have to wait until a tree has been fallen for quite a while so that the wood has had time to age and dry out so that it is ready to burn. What we do now, this is our new firewood routine, is that we fill the trailer with logs and then we park the trailer in the carport under cover right near the house, and that way we don't have to handle it multiple times. When we need to get a stack of logs in for the fire, we can just grab a box and carry in what we need and not have to stack it somewhere and then stack it somewhere else and then stack it somewhere else. So it's made life a lot easier in terms of getting our firewood and getting ourselves warm and not having to struggle with loads and loads of wood. We do have an emergency sort of dried stack of wood in the dairy shed. Anything that we get that is not dry enough to use straight away, we put in there, or if it needs splitting, we split it and then put it in there. But we sort of try not to use that wood if we can. If we have the option of being able to get out into the bush and get a fresh batch for the trailer, we will do that. But if we need wood and there's nothing left, then we will go into that dairy shed stash and use that for the week and then replenish as we go. One thing that does need doing is mowing of the lawns. My backyard area is getting a little bit long, as is the area just outside here near the shed, especially around the plants that we have near the tanks. But it is so wet, and because the days are cold and not really warming up that much, it's really quite difficult to mow. It becomes quite mulchy and gets clogged up in everything. The forecast for the next few days is to get a little bit warmer, so that might be our opportunity to get out and get that mowing done before the real cold sets in, at sort of our last chance to get that grass down over the winter months. I've continued to work on the wholesale custom order that I've been talking about for the past couple of weeks. One of the challenges that I've had is that it is taking a lot longer for the yarn to dry. It has been grey and cold, so it makes drying yarn much more difficult. I don't have the flue connected up yet for the wood fire over here in the shed. It's something I really do need to get onto. So I've been putting my rack out in the sunniest spot in the shed. There is 2 glass sliding doors. It's sort of sitting it in between that so that it gets as much sun as possible even on these grey days. And if I'm over in the shed, I've got the fan going to try and circulate the air and the doors open if it's not too damp outside. But what I have also had to do is to take that yarn and my drying rack and bring it over to the house in front of the fire there and rotate them around, flipping the yarn to try and get it dry quickly in front of the open fire. So one of the challenges of dyeing yarn during winter. I'm almost finished with the order. I have one colour left to dye, so everything else is all reskeined and labelled and ready to go. I just need to package it up and obviously waiting for that final colour. The last couple that I dyed were custom order colours, things that she had specifically asked if I was able to do. So it's been fun to create colours based on a specific request and to think about how I want those colours to come out. So when I am dyeing a new colour, I like to get in my head how I want it to look in the end, because that will determine the technique that I use with the yarn. If I have it skeined up to begin with, if it's got knots in it, if I use a pot or a pan, whether I try and layer colour upon colour or whether I just want to try and mix a colour to start with and use that as the base. So there's lots of things to consider as I'm working through starting a new colourway. And as I've said before, I only use a very small amount of dye powder colours and then I mix those myself. And I find that that is good because it creates a sort of a consistent look across all of my yarn in a way. There's something that sort of ties it all together. It also means that it is going to be an absolutely unique colour that I am creating, and it is a really good creative challenge to create a colour from something that may not necessarily be what you would think would create that colour in the first place. So I worked on a navy this week, and you might think, well, navy, that's pretty easy, isn't it? And you can buy a dark navy blue dye powder, but I don't have that colour. So I have a sky blue, which is quite a light blue, and I have a turquoise, which is more of a greeny blue. So that's sort of my starting point, and from there I have to figure out how I can use my other colours to combine to create the darker blue that I'm after. So I poured some dye solutions in together, including some pink, would you believe? And that was the base for the colour that I started to use. And then after that, I added some powdered dye, so not diluted stock like I normally use, directly into the pot to create my final colour. And this is what I came up with. So it's quite a dark blue. It is tonal because I did it in 2 stages. So there is darker sections and lighter sections, but overall I think it's come up as a really beautiful dark blue. So that's the first one. Then I also was asked to create a red brown ochre colour. So this is how this one ended up, which I'm really pleased with. Again, this is tonal. There's some browns, there's some reds, there's some pinkish reds. It's really got some depth to it, which I'm really happy with. And the third one is pumpkin. So it's a very bright orange with a tonal green. And this one, the orange was dyed in a pot, and I tied some knots in the yarn so that there were some spots that were left white. So there was one bath of dye for the orange, and then I dipped not the green section, it wasn't green, I dipped the white section into a green, and it got this colour, but there's also some spots where there was some yellow already, and so there's a darker green colour in there as well. And I've done a crochet square of the pumpkin, and I'm working on a bloom square, a knit square of that one now as well, just so that I can keep samples of them for myself. So one more colour to go, which is one that I have a recipe for and I've dyed many times before. So I just need to get those in the pot. I was waiting for these skeins to dry before I started on that final colour, just so that I had a place to be able to hang them and get them dried really quickly. First to what I'm wearing this week. This is Philandra by Truly Myrtle or Libby Johnson. I'll put a link below to the pattern and my project page. It is a huge schlankety blankety kind of shawl that gets wrapped around many times. I'm not going to take it off because I'm really warm and comfy, and it'll be too hard to show because it is really kind of giant. It's got different textures and coloured sections and is really easy to wear, and it has done me really well when we were traveling to use on the aeroplane as a pillow or a blanket, and then be able to wear it as an accessory when you're out and about. So it's something that I really do enjoy wearing, and was a really good knit as well. So big news, I have finished the first Flamingo Lane sock. Haven't woven in the ends yet, but apart from that, it is done. And I'm really happy. After my many failed attempts, I am very happy now with how this has turned out. I now have my way of being able to knit with two colours. I am happy with how the pink is popping out as the main sort of colour here. I did change the chart a little bit. I added a couple of extra rows between the foot of the flamingo and the start of the head of the next one. They were quite close and I kind of just moved them up a little bit. I also decided not to continue the chart down the front of the foot. I just did the same as what was called for on the back, which was just the striping of the two colours together. I don't think that'll matter so much because this will be the part that is inside your shoe most of the time, and having just the two colours together has almost acted like a rib. It's actually really nice and stretchy, so it provides extra room down there in the foot, which I may not have been able to provide if I had continued with the colour work, because it really was just going to be the pink line for the remaining flamingo leg all the way down with a few diamonds in between, and I probably would have gotten tighter as I went on because I wanted to get them done. One down, one to go. I have cast on the cuff, here it is here, for the second one. Once I got started and I was actually doing well with it, it didn't actually take me that long, so I'm hoping that I can get the second one done reasonably quickly. Supposed to be for my sister's birthday, which is next weekend. I may not get there, but at least I have one to show her as the gift, and I will be very close, hopefully, to finishing the second one. I've continued working on my Nuvum at night, even though it is black, because it is super easy, just knit around and around. I am able to do it watching TV, and at night there's not too much that I have to check or look at. I've got this tiny little bit left now, so I'm almost up to starting the ruffle. It does get heavy and there is a lot of shifting of stitches because it's very bunched up on the needles. So I can only do it for a little while at a time, but I'm making progress, so that's really good. Well, that's it for another week. Thanks for spending some time with me. If you're enjoying these videos, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to seeing you next week on the farm. Bye.